Hi, I'm Dr. David Croto, and I am here with Professor of Youth Ministry, Family, and Culture, Dr. Karen Grant. Karen, thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to talk today about leading in a different culture. So my first question is, how did you end up joining and serving at an all-African-American church?
Well, I moved to Blythewood in 2009 and was just looking for a church to attend and be a part of, and decided to visit Temple Zion Baptist Church, which is a traditional all-African-American church. In fact, we're celebrating our 117th anniversary this year. And I went to visit Pastor Andre Melvin, who's the pastor there and works at CIU and is a friend of mine. So I just went to visit, really without the intention of joining, but just went to see the church and see him preach. And so went to the church and felt so warmly welcomed to the church. And it was very different style of worship and music, everything, but I loved it. And so I decided to go back, and so I kept coming back, and I just felt the Lord saying, this is where I want you to stay. This is where I want you to put down roots. This is where I want you to serve. And so that's what I did. So in 2010, went through the new members class and became a member of the church.
Based on your experience, what advice would you have for someone serving in a culture different than your own?
Well, I think especially if you're I was used to just being so active and leading, and I just would recommend just observe and just serve where it's needed at that moment. And so anytime they needed help somewhere, I volunteered. I was interested in youth ministry since I teach it, but I didn't want to start in teaching it. So I just sat in on the children's church classes. I sat in on children's Sunday school classes, went to some of the youth events, but really just observed and served anywhere that the church needed. And that's what I think is important to start out, so that you're learning and not assuming that you're going to jump into a leadership role. Another one would be to be a student of the culture, to really take time to read articles and talk to people and watch documentaries and really understand the culture that you're dealing with. Another one would be, especially if you're used to being a leader, you see things that you want to change, and I really recommend that you don't be too eager to do those changes or recommend something. Now, if you're asked, if your opinion is asked on something, then go ahead. But to offer without it being asked too soon, I just think that that's not wise. And I think you need to earn the right to be heard and serve so that they understand your heart and why you're there before you start offering suggestions for change. Another one to remember is, if you've worked at other churches, you bring in the way that you think ministry should be done. And not everything the way that you've done it will work in this different culture. So I think to talk to people, maybe mention ideas, and maybe they can be tweaked, but some ideas just won't work because it's just a different culture than what you're used to. I think a real important thing is find a trusted person or two, not a whole lot of people, but someone at the church that you can ask those questions that you're almost too embarrassed to ask. And just a safe place that you can ask those questions. And also, I had that individual and I approached her and said, if I ever say anything or do anything that's offensive in any way, please come talk to me. Because sometimes when you're a different culture, you can, by actions or words, hurt someone's feelings or be insensitive without knowing it. And I would have felt awful being in this church with my new brothers and sisters if I was offensive in any way. So I think finding those safe places that you can have those discussions. And I think longevity in service is huge. The longer you serve, the deeper your understanding will be for the culture, the deeper your relationships will be, and the more fruitful your ministry will become.
One of the things you mentioned was not making too many changes. So speaking of changes, how have you changed since you've been serving at Temple Zion?
I think some of the biggest changes has just been my view of the world. We all grow up with sort of our cultural lenses, glasses, that we are looking at the world based on our culture and our upbringing and our experiences. And when I went to Temple Zion, I was able to learn from people and learn from a different culture and really see the world through different eyes with all the issues that have happened and tragic things that have happened to African Americans over the last 10 years, and hearing their response was just very helpful. And I think I'm hopefully a better person, a more sensitive person, not only with other African Americans, but other cultures. I don't assume that my way is the right way. And I think sometimes when things are different, we think they're wrong, and really most of the time they're not wrong, it's just different. And so I've been loosened up a little bit and a lot more willing to experience different. But I think most is I just have a deeper understanding, empathy for my African American brothers and sisters.
Dr. Grant, thank you so much for your time today talking about this sensitive and I think very important topic. I appreciate it.
Thank you.